Comrades, thanks for the invitation to speak at your May Day celebrations this year. 2020, a very different year in that we are unable to come together in person, but whatever the circumstances and whatever the challenges, we should always find a way to celebrate and reflect on all that the union movement has achieved, so much that too many Australians take for granted today. I come to you from Larrakia country in Darwin, and I pay my respects to the traditional owners and those elders wherever you are listening to this and watching today. I also want to pay my respects to our union elders, those union elders that give us so much to celebrate today. And as a Wharfie, some of those elders that have passed on that I pay my respects to Chicka Dixon. Chicka Dixon, a Red Fern activist in Wharfie, Joe McGuinness, leader of national prominence in the 30s and 40s, and Fred Maynard, who was the president of the first Aboriginal political organisation in the early 1920s, the Australian Aboriginal Progressive Association. Now that organisation, the AAPA, suffered the same fate as every organisation, Aboriginal-led organisation, that has spoken with a strong voice. That organisation was destroyed by the police, intimidation, by the Aboriginal Progressive Board, Aboriginal Far From Progressive, the Aboriginal Protection Board, and hostile governments. From then all the way through to the First Peoples Congress and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission have all been destroyed. And those lessons inform us that we must protect the next organisation that we build. And that's basically one of the reasons why I support so strongly the Uluru Statement from the Heart. The Uluru Statement from the Heart calls for a constitutionally enshrined voice, and the constitutional enshrinement is to protect that voice. The voice that we call for is a guaranteed representative body, a representative body empowered by the Constitution, empowered by a referendum, where a majority of Australians and a majority of states and a majority of Australians overall will vote yes, mandate this voice that it is listened to. And more than anyone else, unionists should understand the importance of this structure and the importance of protecting it. Unlike Australian workers, which are a majority of the population, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are only 3% of the population. Less than our 3% of the population are able to make it to the polls to vote. And so we are the victims in a flawed democracy, and we need this enhanced voice and we need this enhanced protection, which is different to the union movement, but the same in that we understand that a people, the grassroots people, need representatives that are accountable to them and that can speak unapologetically because they are only answerable to those people that they represent. And so that's the message, I suppose, that I want to express today, to remind you that the Uluru Statement is still very much a live political document, that we didn't take no for an answer from Malcolm Turnbull in 2017, that we did the work, and some of you that I want to acknowledge, to influence a bipartisan committee that was formed out of that when we didn't take no, and agitated to have the Uluru Statement respected, and saw that there was a recommendation that the voice is the only and the main desire for reform from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, the majority of us, and also that it is something that should be developed, which is underway right now, and we must continue to influence in this campaign. The voice is also, the Uluru Statement also calls for truth-telling and agreement-making, and both rely on a voice to see that that is done in a way that we understand is in a coordinated and powerful way, where we are not paupers at the table, but we sit at the table with the leverage and the ability to use our leverage to achieve agreements or treaties that are meaningful and are able to be protected by our political organisation, The Voice. I want to ask you to continue to support that, and I hope that you enjoy the May Day celebrations, as difficult as they are this year. Comrades, let's look to the opportunities that this pandemic creates to campaign. I will leave you with hopefully what will inspire you. I hope you feel what we felt at Uluru in 2017 as I recite the words of the Uluru Statement from the Heart. We gathered at the 2017 National Constitutional Convention, coming from all points of the southern sky, make this statement from the heart. Our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian continent and its adjacent islands, and we possessed it under our own laws and customs. This our ancestors did, according to the reckoning of our culture from the creation, according to the common law from time immemorial, and according to science more than 60,000 years ago. This sovereignty is a spiritual notion, the ancestral tie between the land or Mother Nature and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who were born therefrom, remain attached thereto, and must one day return thither to be united with our ancestors. This link is the basis of the ownership of the soil, or better, of sovereignty. It has never been ceded or extinguished, and it coexists with the sovereignty of the Crown. How could it be otherwise? That a peoples possess the land for 60 millennia, and this sacred link disappears from world history in merely the last 200 years? With substantive constitutional change and structural reform, we believe this ancient sovereignty can shine through as a fuller expression of Australia's nationhood. Proportionately, we are the most incarcerated people on the planet. We are not an innately criminal people. Our children are alien from their families at unprecedented rates. This cannot be because we have no love for them. And our youth languish in detention in obscene numbers. They should be our hope for the future. These dimensions of our crisis tell plainly the structural nature of our problem. This is the torment of our powerlessness. We seek constitutional change to empower our people and take a rightful place in our own country. When we have power over our own destiny, our children will flourish. They will walk in two worlds, and their culture will be a gift to their country. We call for the establishment of a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution. Makarrata is the culmination of our agenda, the coming together after a struggle. It captures our aspirations for a fair and truthful relationship with the people of Australia and a better future for our children based on justice and self-determination. We seek a Makarrata Commission to supervise a process of agreement making between governments and First Nations and truth-telling about our history. In 1967 we were counted. In 2017 we seek to be heard. We leave base camp and start our trek across this vast country. We invite you to walk with us in a movement of the Australian people for a better future. Thank you, comrades. Happy May Day.